What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
I have to tell you something that kind of totally 100% irritates the shit out of me. There has been leaked footage, and I know we said we were never going to talk about Brian Koberger again.
Yeah, of him in his jail cell. I've seen it.
Yeah, so have I.
Where he's pacing back and forth.
I'm not mad about the leaked footage. As a matter of fact, they're like investigating, trying to figure out where the footage came from, because they were literally like, they talked about how policy is we don't share things. But I mean, obviously they must have cameras in all of their jail cells or whatever, right?
Well, they've got to, because if somebody ends up dead in their
Right.
fucking jail cell or
But
has
somebody who
shit.
works at that prison has leaked the footage of him at his
Right.
cell.
Probably somebody that was pissed off about how it went.
That is not what bothers me. Did you see the size of that motherfucker's cell?
Okay, I'm just going to say it. I did not even watch like the whole video clip or anything. I just, because it came across like TikTok, so it only shows like a tiny, tiny bit of it. I literally sat there and went, you're living a fucking cush life.
That's what I said.
And also what he's complaining about, and they're trying to do something about it. I don't know what they're trying to do about it, because again, I just haven't looked into it, but he's complaining about how the other inmates are treating him.
What did you expect,
My
bro?
fucking response to that is, well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe
you shouldn't be a murderer.
First of all, maybe you shouldn't be a murderer, but guess what? That's what you fucking get for all of a sudden saying you did it.
He's being treated differently.
You're a fucking prisoner.
And he's in a fucking lockdown facility. It's not like he doesn't have interaction with the other inmates.
With how the crime went down, just from the shit that we've heard, and I mean, I have felt this way since the picture came out of the blood seeping out of the house because of how much blood there was, which means it was fucking brutal. Guess what? I actually feel like you deserve worse than what you're fucking getting right now.
I agree.
Because I saw you putting your little books away and shit like that. You should have nothing.
And what makes me mad is how big his cell is. I'm not trying to be like inhumane or rude.
Do a whole fucking workout routine in there.
Dude, you can't, from the angle of that camera that they have, you can literally see his
You could literally
toilet.
fit like, I think 2 or 3 people.
You can see his shelving area, but you can't even see his bed, which means it's bigger than what you see on that area. It's like a bed, like bigger than, it's bigger than your brother's bedroom, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, why, I understand, whatever, people in prison reform, blah, 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 blah. Brian Koberger is not the type you're going to try to reform. You're just not going to try to reform him.
Guess what? He probably studied it.
Well, and he should not be allowed to be reformed. Period. Even if he could be reformed and let out of jail, in my opinion, his kind of heinous murder is the type that makes you ineligible for being reformed. So therefore, you should be put in prison for punishment, and punishment only and not reform. There's no reformation, whatever for you. So you living your life by yourself in a massive size cell with super bright lights, literally like you're in a dorm room, for God's sakes. You're just living your life. And I don't, it makes me mad.
I'm sorry that they're bullying you. Guess what? You fucking deserve it.
Well, and what do you mean?
I'd love to at all.
I'd love to look into it, because really, I'd love to know what he means by how they're treating him, because he doesn't actually have contact with other inmates. Now, he will be brought out into like areas, but he's in the super max part of the maximum security prison, which means he doesn't actually have interactions with any inmates.
I think
if he really wants to fucking
I think they're
complain,
heckling him. I think that's what his
So put his ass
is.
in Gen Pop and see how quickly he fucking hates his life.
Well, you put his ass in Gen Pop and he'll die.
That's my point. Like the prisons are protecting him right now.
Or they'll fuck him up enough to where he'll almost die.
They're protecting him right now, and he doesn't deserve any of that.
No.
And I'm glad that he's like upset. I'm glad, because he showed zero remorse for everything. He showed zero any sort of emotion for anything. So at least he's pissed off at where he's staying, and that's good. That means that he doesn't like what's happening, because he knows that's his life. Good for you. Anyways, I know I said we weren't going to talk about Koberger, but that shit just irritated me. Let me make this clear before we get into what we're talking about today. I'm not saying that I think people should be in prison in like rat-infested, roach-infested prisons. I don't think that. What I'm saying is, I don't think they should be able to live like his life. Like, you can see it on his face in the video. He's just living. He's literally
they
just
still get fed. They don't got to pay to eat
his life. We won't continue to always talk about Brian Koberger, but I like to talk about the things that are a little bit more current. But what we're actually here to talk about, the year 2004.
Thank God.
2004 in California, Thomas and Jackie Hawks are murdered and Skylar Deleon is held responsible. So this is what we're talking about. So we're going to start with a little background on Thomas and Jackie. So Thomas was a retired probation officer and bodybuilder, and Jackie was his second wife, but they'd been together for like a bazillion years. Like it's not like, oh, no, they've been together for a long time. The two of them were actually retired, enjoying their retirement. They owned a 55-foot yacht that was named Well Deserved. And they actually sold their house to buy the yacht. So it's not like I don't think that they were super rich or anything, but they were retired. They sold their house. They wanted to travel by boat. So they sold their house to buy this boat. And they actually traveled around kind of the Pacific Ocean area for 2 years.
Bro, that reminds me of the guy that traveled to Portland or from
Hawaii.
Portland with his cat.
Yeah.
That shit was funny.
My uncle traveled from Canada to Jamaica and back on his sailboat.
No.
He lived on his sailboat for, I think it was like 2 years or 3 years.
Some of those rough waters, no.
For real. I went on his sailboat one time and got seasick as fuck. It was
I know how to sail.
Up.
I learned how to sail, but I don't have any pleasure of doing it again.
But this is what they wanted to do. Now, when I say the Pacific Ocean, I'm literally talking like the Pacific Ocean. They were
it makes sense because they were in California.
Well, they were in California when they were killed. Yes, but their boat was parked there. But they would travel like the Baja California area. They would travel in the Gulf. They just would go around and you figure, I'm going to say it right now, Sierra, you're going to know. I'm thinking like below deck type thing because it's a yacht. Okay. Yeah. So it's it's a 55-foot yacht. Also, they don't have all the people on there to take care of them or anything. They're just living their life. But they might, I don't know if they drove the boat themselves. I don't know any of the details. And again, they had it for quite some time. They traveled for literally 2 years around the Pacific Ocean area. Let me just tell it to you like this. Thomas actually had told his son at some point, life is too short and it's my life. This is our time. And I feel if I hesitate, then it would just go by and I'll miss it. So you figure he was like that. Sierra, did you just hear what I said? Please know. That is literally why I go to Disneyland. That is why, because it is my life. This is my time. I'm not retired yet, but life is short. I'm taking all the time I can to be with my husband and my family. That's why I go on so many vacations.
Whoa. And your family.
I take you on vacations
one a
too.
Year.
No, we go other places. We don't
go to Disneyland more than once a year.
No, but that's because it's expensive.
You're going
because it's only
25th anniversary.
Because it's only two of us going. It's a lot cheaper for two people than it is for.
You wouldn't have an anniversary if it wasn't for me.
Okay, so that's kind of his life motto. So in 2004, Jackie and Thomas decide that they're actually going to sell the yacht and they're going to move onto land. So they're going to get their land legs.
No more sea legs.
They're going to live near their grandchild because one of Thomas's sons was going to have a baby with his wife. I believe this was actually their first grandchild. So they were like, it is time. We've lived a good, 3 to 4 years of on the yacht, living our life. And
the first grandchild's always the special.
Well, and this family lives in Arizona, so they were going to retire in Arizona, and they were just going to go do the thing. So they're going to sell all their.
Wow, so they really went land.
Yeah, they did. This also was important to Jackie because this was not her son. However, Jackie had literally been in his life since he was like a younger person. I don't know the exact age. I don't know if it was like middle school, but it's like younger adolescence. So she's been a part of his life for a long time. It's kind of like a good working, stepmother father relationship with one of the kids. They're excited to have grandkids, right? So they're ready to move on. So they list their yacht for sale for $440,000.
God damn, in 2004?
Well, you figure they sold their house to buy it, so it's probably...
Dude, imagine how much that yacht would be now. At least in the mills, probably.
I don't know. I don't know if boats...
Well, I guess it also depends, though, on was it a nicer yacht for that time?
Right. So in November, after they've posted this up for sale, they have someone who's actually interested in the sale of their yacht. Originally, Thomas and Jackie are kind of skeptical of this person. But when the person shows up, they do show up. They have themselves and their pregnant wife. And then this kind of smooths over their doubts about it. And they're like, okay. And this person was Skylar Deleon. Now, Skylar was born August 12th, 1979 in Sun Valley, California. And Skylar was born as John Julius Jacobson Jr. John Jacob
Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's all I could think
me
of.
too. Me too.
I was really hoping you were going to end it with that.
Okay. Please bear with me. It is important to note right now that Skylar's gender has since officially changed to female in 2019.
So a transgender woman.
So for this episode, I am going to note that at the time of the crimes, Skylar was male, but has since transitioned to female. So therefore, I will just try to just reference Skylar as Skylar. I'm not going to go one way or the other. So I'm just going to start out by saying Skylar's life was rough as fuck. Not that anybody would expect anything different on this podcast. Skylar's father was not only a drug dealer, but also an extremely abusive person, along with allowing other people to sexually abuse Skylar as well. Now, Skylar's father, from everything I can say, I don't think Skylar's father was sexually abusive to Skylar, but Skylar's father allowed others to be sexually abusive. Now, Skylar's attorney also noted in the trial that, quote, Skylar had a horrible, horrible life. So, I mean, really, truly, I'm not going to downplay it because we all know how I feel. We don't use this shit as any fucking excuse, but it might describe some, or maybe explain, although in this scenario, I don't even know how this explains what happened. I'm just going to point that out. Again, we all know how we feel. You cannot excuse someone's bad behavior based on mental health or childhood abuse. You cannot excuse it away ever. There's no excuse. It will just explain to you maybe why somebody has some fucked up things in their brain. At the age of 14, Skylar had a small, non-speaking, uncredited role on the TV show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, the reason this is important is because it never led to any sort of acting career at all for Skylar. Okay? Skylar, though, claims that Skylar was a child actor. So it's important. So just remember, Skylar had a very small, non-speaking, I think Skylar was on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Skylar was an extra.
Like three
That's
or
what
four,
they call
like
the
yes,
extras,
yes,
because they're extra.
Yes, they were on there like three.
They're
or four
the
times.
background.
So Skylar later meets. So he does this. Later, Skylar meets a woman named Jennifer through an online interaction, and they end up getting married. They also go on to have a child, and they get pregnant with another child. Okay, so this is where the life of Skylar is at right now. Now, Jennifer actually ends up being the sole breadwinner in the family. She's a hairstylist. And police actually stated that based on their financials, there was literally no way they would have actually been able to ever afford to buy the yacht that they were so interested in saying that they were going to buy.
Well, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but saying that she's the breadwinner and she's a hairstylist.
Well, you don't know, man. Some hairstylists can make some fucking money. And they're in California, so I'm not even going to discount that at all.
They can charge a shit ton, but based on that price for that time frame, that seems pretty...
not if she's working with celebrities and shit.
I guess
Oh,
that's
hell.
true.
Okay, so that's kind of the background on Skylar and the Hawks, okay? So once the Hawks meet with Skylar and Jennifer, they seem to feel a little bit better about selling to the couple. Because one of their concerns was Skylar was so young, being interested in buying this yacht. They're kind of like, well, you're kind of young. Like, that's a lot of money for a person. And Skylar ends up telling them that, oh, no. I have some extra money because I had an acting career as a child. And I also have investment properties as well. So we have extra money other than what my wife makes, which is now known that neither of those is true. Yes, Skylar was an extra, but Skylar didn't have like a fucking nest egg for the acting career.
You probably got like a couple $100 at the most.
Now, both couples end up coming to an agreement after discussing things on Skylar purchasing the boat, and they agree to them, the couple purchasing the boat for $435,000, and then also an extra $15,000 for some of the other personal items in the boat that they were willing to sell with it. On November 15th of 2004, they have this meeting. Now, when this meeting first happens, Skylar meets with the Hawks to do a boat run, and there's two other men with Skylar. Now, my thought is that they were under the impression that the other two men knew like about boats, and maybe they were there to assess to make sure that the boat was going to run properly or whatever. And Jennifer was not going to be going on this boat run. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, she wasn't even there. It was just Skylar and these two men. And this November 15th, 2004 was the last time the Hawks were seen alive. Now, the Hawks family members start to become concerned because they can no longer get a hold of them. So much so that Tom's older brother calls the authorities in California and files a missing persons report for his brother and sister-in-law. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, this is not norm. They were in the middle of trying to sell their boat. This is weird. They should be answering. So police are like, yeah, okay, like we'll go do a welfare check. Like we'll go check on them. So police go and they get to the yacht, and they claim that when they got there, they actually felt like they had seen what would be considered a partial bloody fingerprint on the boat, on the yacht, which allowed them probable cause to search the boat. So they see this thing, they get on, they're like, oh, that looks like it could be blood. Nobody's heard from them. Let's go check the boat. So they get onto the boat. They search the whole damn boat. There's little things like a tarp is not where it would normally be, but there is literally nothing that makes them think anything really bad has happened to the couple. Everything seems pretty much legit. And they decide they're going to test that bloody fingerprint just in case. And they actually find out that it's rust. It's not even blood. So they're like, okay, well, that's weird. So then the family tells the police that, well, they were in the middle of selling their yacht, and we think they actually found people that were interested in buying it. So maybe we can kind of search for that. So police investigate this, and they find that there is actually a Skylar Deleon, who's 25, and a Jennifer Deleon, who's 23, that were listed as buyers of the yacht. So investigators like, okay, let's go talk to them. So the investigators go in and find them, and they talk to Jennifer and Skylar, and they tell the police that, oh yeah, no, we did buy that. 100%. We bought it from the Hawks, and they paid cash. We paid cash for the boat. Like, we gave them cash for the boat. The boat's ours. They're gone. And I'm thinking $450,000 cash. That's how much you said you gave them in cash?
There's no way.
I don't even know how you get $450,000 from a bank. I don't even know if you can get $450,000 out of a bank.
I actually don't. Even
cash.
In that time, I don't think that would have been. Like, I don't think you would have actually been able to do that. You would have had to write a cashier's check.
Yeah, I don't know how. So anyway, and even the police were like, okay, that's weird. And they tell them, well,
maybe the 15,000.
I mean, to be fair, the cops were kind of like 450,000. And so then they say, where the hell did you guys get? You guys are literally in your mid 20s. Where the fuck did you get $450,000? And they said, well, Skylar pipes up, I'm a childhood actor. I have childhood acting money. I was a childhood actor. I had money saved up for my childhood acting days, which again, that's why it's so important to point out his part was literally nothing.
Bro, that episode must have made so much money then if you got that much money, because my God.
So the next thing Skylar says is, I have the legal documentation if you want to see it. I'll show it to you. So Skylar gets the purchase documentation and shows it to the police. And the police look at it. Okay, this is like a legit notarized fucking, yes, they bought this boat. Yes, it was done legally. Okay, like what are you going to do? It's fucking legit. So then they say, okay, well, have you seen the Hawks? Do you know where they are? Because they're missing. Their family's worried about them. And the couple actually tells the police, well, yeah, the last time we saw them was the day that we bought the boat. And it's kind of crazy that you say they're missing, because we've actually been trying to get a hold of them too, because we have a few questions that we forgot to ask them. And they told us we could call them at any time. And they said the last time we saw them, they took the cash from us in a fucking suitcase. So you had $450,000 of cash in a suitcase. They got into their car and they left. And that's the last time we've seen them. So police are like, okay.
I mean, a little like
this seems a little,
but
yeah.
Also,
but they have legit paperwork.
Well, not only that, but
and it could
their
be
whole
true.
life was on the boat.
Correct.
So if they're no longer on the
true.
boat, they could have packed all their shit in the car and just been like, okay, as soon as we sell it, we're ready to go.
Yep.
And they left some shit on the boat because they paid extra for it.
So police are like, yeah, you know what? Okay, cool. Thanks for the information. And they leave. And then they decide they're going to do background checks on both Jennifer and Skylar, just because you got to do your fucking due diligence. So they do Jennifer's background and they find out she has no criminal record. She's pretty legit. Like, okay. They do Skylar's background check, and they find out that Skylar had recently been incarcerated for a charge of armed burglary, But Skylar served time. Skylar served the time and was currently out on probation. So there was nothing hinky about it. Like, Skylar did the shit and Skylar did the punishment, and now Skylar's out on probation. Okay, fine. So in reality, though, the police are still very fucking suspicious, because the big suspicion to them is $450,000 cash.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, it's actually $483,000 in cash that they supposedly
so almost
gave.
$500,000.
Basically, that they gave him in a fucking suitcase.
No way.
But there's nothing to them that screams crime. And so they're just kind of like, okay, I guess whatever. So they call up Skylar and Jennifer and say like, hey, listen, can you guys just come down to the station and just give us statements, because we need to put this in the police records that we've talked to you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to close it, but just to let people know, whoever investigates this.
Well, it's kind of like documentation in the medical field, making sure everything's there. So, yeah.
So they both come in, they give statements. And in Skylar's statement, Skylar says, well, I saw that the boat was for sale. And I was like, yep, we've been looking for a yacht. We were looking for something like that. And so I contacted the Hawks. They said we could meet up. So we arranged for the test. I wanted to test drive the boat. And if the boat drove the way I wanted it to, and if it was working properly, I had the money. I was ready. My wife was sitting there with the money. There's 5 people who actually went on the test drive. Skylar said the Hawks were on the boat. Skylar was on the boat. A friend of Skylar's named Alonzo McCain was on the boat. And a notary public that was brought to legalize the sale of documents was also on the boat. That's what Skylar tells them. Now, after the test drive, Skylar's like, I agreed to purchase the boat because everything ran fine. We literally went out. Everything was good. Skylar said, I agreed to purchase the boat. The Hawks drove away with a suitcase containing $485,000 in cash. Skylar does state that Tom had mentioned purchasing a house in Mexico with the money and retiring in Mexico, which we all know is not true, because they were planning on retiring in Arizona where their fucking grandchild was going to be born. But they didn't know that. But in reality, Skylar claimed to have no knowledge of where the couple could have been. They just disappeared with the money. Police then reach out to the notary. They didn't know where Alonzo McCain was, so they couldn't find Alonzo McCain, but they did reach out to the notary. And they find out that, yeah, the notary was like, yep, I was there. Yep, I notarized. So if you don't know what a notary is a person who legally basically witnesses signatures, and then the notary will also sign it and date it for the date that this was signed. And it's illegal. They have like a legal documentation. They're like, okay, everything again looks super legal. Everything sounds right. We're talking to the notary who says, yes, all this happened. So like, I don't fucking know. Something's weird, but we don't know. The biggest burning question now at this point is, where the fuck did the Deleons get the money to buy this boat? Considering A, they can see that Skylar does not have a job. B, they are living with Jennifer's parents on Jennifer's parents' property in like a garage. So they're like, there's no fucking way y'all had $480,000 in cash, because you would have bought a fucking house or something. You would not be living the lifestyle you are. So they're
Especially
not
having 2 kids.
They're not giving up on this, because they're like, nah, something's not fucking right. So questions were asked again. And they asked Skylar, where did you get this money? Like, we know that this money did not come from some crazy fucking childhood acting career. We already know this. So Skylar says, okay, I'm gonna shoot it straight with you. The money that I used to buy the yacht was actually stolen from a drug kingpin before I was incarcerated for the burglaries. So now he's telling him like, oh no, I was incarcerated. I stole a bunch of money from a drug kingpin. I hid the money before I got arrested. And my plan was, once I got out of jail, I was going to get the money, and then I was going to hopefully build a better life for myself and my family.
I could actually believe that story.
For anyone wondering, that is literally the definition of money laundering. That is illegal as fuck. You are not allowed to do that. Like, you are not allowed to. I mean, I don't give a shit.
You're not allowed to steal money from.
You're
people.
not allowed to steal money, but let's just say you know, yeah. So you basically, yes, Skylar stole money, hid the money until Skylar got out of prison, and then Skylar went back and took the money and was gonna live the life of happiness with the fam. And that's money laundering.
And tell everybody that it was child acting.
Exactly. So that is 150% money laundering. Now, of course, the police are literally like, that's fucking money laundering. Like, I don't know what you're doing here, but okay. The police then tell Skylar, you know what? Because you've been so cooperative with us, we are not going to press charges of money laundering on you because we genuinely think that you didn't realize it was money laundering. And now we've got this whole
To
situation.
be fair, you talking about it, I didn't know until you said that it
Right.
was money. Like, I would have been like, all right, that's a smart plan. Just save it away, live the high life. Well,
I mean, for fuck's sake, in
obviously stealing
Shawshank
money's
Redemption, that's what he did, and he lived his
no,
life.
exactly. Like, obviously, the stealing part
Like,
of it is not,
whatevs.
but I would have never
Right.
never guessed. 'Cause
Right.
to me, it would be like basically just not in a bank savings account.
Well, and you stole it from a drug kingpin. You didn't steal it from
it's
like
like
a bank,
it's like
so-
what TikTok always talks
Whatevs.
about. You know, it's girl math because it's cash, so you don't have to budget it in.
So and of course you're not paying taxes on it, so then it's like a big deal.
Exactly.
But they basically had decided we're not going to press charges because every time we ask you for any sort of information, you're 100%
talking.
willing to help us. And so we appreciate you. We're not going to worry about that. Trying to also probably be like, make sure
Hey,
you
give us
continue to
more
tell us
info.
tell us everything you can. Because I think at this point they're kind of like, I think they're kind of like, okay, well,
There's
now,
no lead.
well, and hearing this, they probably were like, okay, so Skylar really probably did have that money.
Yeah.
Really, truly, if this is what happened. I mean, at this point, police are like, we don't even fucking know. Like, we don't even know what else to do.
I'd ask him where he hid the money.
They end up going on TV to ask for help at this point because they're like, we genuinely have no leads. The people that we thought could be responsible, they actually have a legit fucking reason where they might have gotten a bunch of money. Cash in a suitcase makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on TV and they ask it for the public to help them look for the Hawks. And they said, you'll find them potentially driving a 1998 Honda CRV. And they said, they put up pictures of them and said, this is what they look like. If you see them, if you see their car, please call your local authorities. We'd really like to find these people. One day after the show is aired, they get a lead. A woman who actually lives in Mexico calls the authorities. And she says, I'm literally staring out the window of my house at the car you just showed me on TV yesterday. Same license plates, same color, same everything. So American police and Mexican police work together and they head over to the location in Ensenada, Mexico. They approach the home where the SUV is parked. They knock on the door and it's answered by a man. They ask if the vehicle in his driveway is his, to which he says, no, it's a friend's. And they said, well, does your friend happen to be Tom Hawks? And he said, no, Skylar Deleon.
Damn.
And they immediately...
Mike fucking drop.
They immediately arrest Skylar for money laundering. Right? Like they literally call back and said, yo, we just found the car. The dude here is saying Skylar is his friend and that's it. And they're like, okay. So they go and they arrest Skylar for money laundering because now they know Skylar lied. And they actually told Skylar,
Well, and also
we told you.
I feel like that's a lead enough to know that you had something to do with
well,
their
and they said, we said
because you also stole a car.
We told you that you were being so forthcoming and we weren't going to charge you with money laundering. And now we just found out that you fucking lied to us. Now we're going to arrest you.
Yeah.
Now, for nothing else, it's because they wanted to make sure Skylar stayed locked up until they could actually find out what the hell was going on.
Right.
So this was a good way for them to keep Skylar on their radar. They end up searching the De Leon's home as well because now they're like, all right, something's weird. And they actually find several items that belong to the Hawks, including a camera. Now, on this camera, there's actually video documentation of the Hawks' lives over the last couple of years. It's them traveling. It's their videos of them doing like stuff out at sea, all that stuff. And then it's showing beautiful sunsets. It's showing all these things that their life together was. Then the video continues and all of a sudden it's no longer video of the Hawkses and instead it's the lives of the De Leons, such as them celebrating Thanksgiving dinner. So they not only stole their fucking video camera, but then recorded their own personal lives with the intermixed with their lives. So not too long after this discovery, police are like, we're going to start re-interviewing people because now we definitely think something is very fucked up here. Because again, still at this point, they know they bought personal items. So what if they bought the video camera, right? Like we don't know. So they start re-interviewing people and a woman named Kathleen Davis comes forward and she says, hi, remember me? I'm the notary public. I'm the one that said that I was on the boat and I did the signature and they're like, yeah. And she's like, okay, listen, I've never been on the boat. I don't even know what the boat looks like. I was not there on the date of the sale. And that's it. And they're like, what the fuck? And she says,
first of all, she should be arrested for
oh,
lying.
100%. She says, well, I met the Deleons through a mutual friend of mine a while ago. They gave me $2,000 to backdate paperwork for them a while ago. Well, they came to me again and asked and basically offered money to her to backdate paperwork on the purchase of this yacht. And she did it. So she's now coming forward and saying, no, I wasn't actually on the yacht. I know I said I was, but I wasn't. So she does this a second time where she signs, like I said, for the boat. Now, here's her reasoning why she did it this time. Sure, she was given money, but supposedly Skylar had threatened to come after her family, and she actually believed they had her believing that Skylar was part of the cartel, and that if she didn't do what Skylar wanted, they were going to kill her family. Now, that's not too far-fetched because where California is in Mexico, the Mexican cartel, that's pretty fucking close. So I could completely see how people might think that. So on March of 2005, investigators also talked to, Alonzo McCain. Now, Alonzo McCain happens to also be the man who had the car in Mexico. That's who was at the door.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that might have been who it was.
So they sit down with Alonzo, and he basically tells investigators that no, Kathleen had not been on the boat the day of the test ride. That is true. The notary was not there, but there was another person on the boat, and that was a man named John F. Kennedy. He is a former pastor turned insane Crips gang member, and from what the knowledge is that I have, he's also a former gang member. And
you just said that twice.
No, he was a former pastor. He had turned into an insane Crip gangs member, and now he's a former gang member.
Oh.
So he was at the time,
okay.
He was part of it, but I don't think he is anymore. He had been recruited that morning to come with Skylar and Alonzo. Alonzo tells the police that once they are on the boat, they go off, boom, they're driving, whatever. He said that Skylar had Alonzo and John overpower the couple and tie their hands behind their back. Skylar also had their mouths covered with tape, and they were placed on the bed in the yacht. Then the Hawks were forced to sign sale documents. They were then placed on the deck of the boat back to back. Okay, so now they're handcuffed back to back on the boat. They've been forced to sign over their whole yacht with the fake ass, I paid you money when I didn't. Skylar then walks over to the couple and grabs the anchor of the boat and handcuffs the couple to the anchor of the boat. Tom now realizes that what the fuck's going on. So Tom
also probably realizes we're going to fucking die.
That's what I'm saying. He realizes like, fuck, we're going to die. So he fights and he kicks Skylar as hard as he can and ends up kicking groin, which genuinely stuns Skylar for a hot minute. But not enough for this whole plan to be done. So Skylar, because now Skylar's pissed, takes the anchor and drops the anchor over the boat. And honestly, I don't actually know, because I don't think yachts work like that, because we've seen too many below decks. I don't actually think the anchor was like sitting on board. So for those of you who know, yachts are big, and I'm pretty sure the anchors hang off the boat. So I don't think that Skylar threw the anchor overboard. I would venture to guess Skylar hit the lever that drops the anchor.
Right.
And when you see an anchor go down, we only know this because, again, we've seen below deck. The anchor goes down and a ton of like rope or chain starts really fast going down because, again, you're in the middle of the ocean. This shit's like fucking, I don't even know how deep, but deep as hell. And this anchor's
deep
just
enough for a fucking anchor.
It's just going like fucking hotcakes. So they're watching. This is all according to Alonzo. Please remember, these are Alonzo's words. This is what Alonzo says. Alonzo says that the anchor is overboard now, and they are watching as the chain is like going down, and Tom and Jackie are thrown overboard because they are connected to this chain and they were drowned to death. I'm going to tell you right now, my stomach hurts from this. It's hard. It's like that has got to be the most horrific fucking way to die because there is nothing you can do. There was nothing you could have done. And one of the things I can say right now is for Skylar, what kind of evil are you? What kind of evil are you? To be honest with you, I'm not trying to say anything. I'm not trying to be any sense of whatever, but I would prefer if you put me and you want to drown me, fucking shoot me in my head first, kill me, and then put me overboard. That's fine. But I can't imagine drowning because...
Listen, this is where I think it should be eye for an eye, because I feel like, Skylar, your punishment should be every day on the same day for a certain amount of time. You get waterboarded. Just throwing that out there.
I'm saying, because I think about, like, when you're under the water for too long, your lungs start to burn, you think you're going to pass out and die. And they didn't.
Oh, well, my biggest fear is the shark's going to fucking eat me first. So.
I'd rather a shark eat me first, because at least you die fast.
That'd be a fucking fear.
So they're thrown overboard and they are drowned to death. Obviously, with this information, police arrest Skylar, Jennifer, Alonzo, and John F. Kennedy. They arrest all of them because now, what? That's his real name.
I know. It's just funny.
They arrest all of them. I know. They arrest all of them and charge them all. Now, Jennifer initially denies having any involvement. Her claim was that she was not there when this happened. She also claimed that she had some suspicions that the Hawkses had been killed, but she thought that it was because of a drug deal that had gone bad. She supposedly didn't realize that they killed the couple for the boat. Don't ask. She was charged with murder. She was put on trial, and in 2007, she is convicted of murdering Tom and Jackie, and she is given 2 consecutive life sentences. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. On February 19th of 2009, he is found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder, and it only took the jury 3 hours to deliberate. And he was sentenced to death on May 1st, 2009. I'm not going to lie. That shocked me. I'm not going to fucking lie. That shocked me because at the end of the day, the person who is solely responsible for the death of these 2, really, from what it sounds like, is Skylar Deleon. Because Skylar Deleon is the one
that should have the worst punishment.
Correct. Skylar Deleon is the one who handcuffed him to the anchor. Skylar Deleon's the one
Sounds
who...
like had the whole fucking idea.
Yeah, no,
Just
it was.
that out there.
Now, John Kennedy and Alonzo, both of them were part of it. They subdued the people, but it doesn't... I mean,
like I almost would have given them...
I guess, but...
I almost would have given them
life.
The same...
I actually expected them to have life.
I would say the same or even less than the
wife.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too. So it shocked me when I read death.
This is where it makes me think sometimes male versus female too when it comes to punishment.
Not only do I think that has something to do with it because they tend to not want to give death sentences to women. I also think this...
Which I don't get why.
I also think that the death penalty for John, also the fact that he was a gang member.
Oh, yeah.
And probably had some sort of a record. And so for that, they were like, oh, okay, well, he's a bad guy.
Gonna
right?
Be one of those, doesn't matter, doesn't matter if you're better now or not. You have a past and your past clearly wasn't gone.
Yep. So he was sentenced to death on May 1st, 2009. And currently, John is still sitting in San Quentin prison because of the moratorium of death sentences in California. So he's living on death row. But he's living on death row because they're in 2019.
He's in San Quentin.
Well, I was going to say San Quentin's not exactly a great prison. So he's sitting there. He's sitting on death row, and he's probably not going to ever be put to death because the moratorium, from what I read, is Gavin Newsom is trying to actually make it completely. They're trying to take death penalty completely away. He put the moratorium in 2019, which means they can't do death penalty right now. But it hasn't been passed, and it's completely off the table yet. But that's what the goal is. So fine, whatever.
Personal opinions, I don't agree with taking away the death penalty, but that's me.
I
know
think
other people don't.
I'll be honest. I think the death penalty should be only for extenuating circumstances. I don't think
like his. I don't agree with
John
his.
F. Kennedy should be on. I don't think he should have, but I do think that Skylar.
But
I think Skylar Deleon should absolutely be death penalty. I think there's certain.
Well, there's definitely some criminals out there that it's like no, you deserve.
Well,
the death
because
penalty.
also again. Point of prison and shit is reform. Well, you can't reform people like that. You just can't. And somebody like Skylar Deleon, who's that cold and calculated and evil, you can't.
I'll say the ones that you can look at them and
you just know
whether it be nature versus nurture. Again, that's the whole argument. But when you look at them and you say no,
it doesn't
at the
matter.
end of the day, whether it's nature versus nurture, you are evil. You don't deserve to live.
Again, it doesn't matter nature versus nurture. If you're a murderer and you don't have remorse and you can completely tell that this person does not give a shit, you don't need to be alive.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's John F. Kennedy. Now, Alonzo McCain receives a plea deal because he cooperated with the authorities. He also testified against all three of them.
Okay.
Which is
okay,
expected.
I agree with that.
Expected.
I actually don't mind that.
He pled guilty to 2 counts each of kidnapping, voluntary manslaughter, and robbery. He got 20 years plus 4 months. And he was put into Valley State Prison, and he was actually paroled in 2021.
I'm actually not upset with that.
I'm not either.
Not
He essentially only served 12 years for his part, but at the same time, like I said,
12 years.
Based off of everything that people talked about, Skylar but this is why I'm saying the John F. Kennedy thing. I know that he cooperated, but the fact that they went from a plea deal to this guy, but death for the other guy is crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, background had something to do with it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
With Alonzo, the other part is I'm not upset about that because I would say in this scenario, I do not think Alonzo killed. He had a hand in their murder.
Yeah.
But he was an accomplice. An accomplice is, if it wasn't for his testimony, you wouldn't have gotten Skylar.
No,
you wouldn't have gotten him. So I'm okay. I'm actually okay with I'm not upset with the sentence. And he served 12 years. And to be honest with you, 12 years is not a lot for 12 years is not a lot for murder. However,
but when you weren't the hand that murdered, that's where I feel
here
different.
we go. Gypsy Rose got 8. Same scenario. Accomplices shouldn't really be getting as much anyways. So that's Alonzo. Now Skylar Deleon, while waiting for the trial, or while awaiting the trial for Skylar's trial, a charge of soliciting another inmate for the murder of Skylar's cousin and Skylar's father, that was brought up to Skylar. Skylar got another charge because while in prison waiting, Skylar contacted an inmate in prison and said, "I'd like to set up the murder of my cousin and my father."
Damn.
Also, Skylar was accused of having killed a former fellow inmate named John Jarvie. Skylar's sitting and waiting in prison to get charged for the murder of the Hawks family, the couple. And while Skylar's there, Skylar gets another charge for soliciting another inmate to murder, gets another charge, and then now is under the suspicion of being somebody who had killed a former inmate in prison, John Jarvie. The reason for this is John Jarvie was found in 2003 in Mexico dead. And Skylar's cousin and father had been charged as accessories to this murder. And so that's why I think the solicitation of an inmate, because I don't know if they were in San Quentin, but whatever connections there were, Skylar was able to make it to where the Skylar's cousin and Skylar's father could have somehow been murdered, like, because they were all in prison. I don't know what prisons
they got ways
were
to
in,
communicate,
right?
In prison.
And that's kind of
even
what
if you're
it was.
not in the same prison.
But the reason that Skylar wanted them dead is because Skylar's cousin and Skylar's father were actually considered important witnesses to the case because I think they were going to testify against Skylar as the one who murdered John Jarvie. And so now, here we are in March 13th.
That's low-key fucked up. Family got to.
But when you think about this, though, just more of a reason for the death penalty.
I mean, yeah.
So March 13th of 2008, Skylar actually receives medical attention after partially severing their penis with a razor blade. This opens up a claim now by Skylar's defense attorney that the motivation behind the murder of Tom and Jackie was so that Skylar could get money for a sex reassignment surgery. Which is funny to me because this is 4 years later and that never once was brought up as a reason, as a motive, as a motive. Not once until now. On September 22nd, 2008, Skylar is tried for the murder of Tom and Jackie Hawks along with the murder of John Jarvie. So now Skylar has 3 murder charges, to which Skylar claimed innocence of John Jarvie. Skylar's defense attorneys actually state that Skylar was responsible. This is what Skylar's attorneys stated. Skylar was responsible for all 3 murders, and the only reason they wanted to go to trial was to stop the death penalty from being on the table, like to stop Skylar from getting the death penalty. And they wanted to, use back. That's why they said Skylar had a horrible, horrible life. They wanted to use the fact that Skylar was transgender and wanted a sex reassignment surgery to kind of excuse away the reason for murdering these people. So in October of 2008, Skylar is convicted on all 3 counts of murder. And on April 10th, 2009, Skylar is sentenced to death. And Skylar is placed on death row in San Quentin as well. Now, again, due to the moratorium, Skylar is still housed in San Quentin and most likely will never die. I'm just going to throw this tidbit of information and then we're done. In 2019, so
I swear
6 years ago,
Swear you better watch what you say.
Skylar officially fully transitions to a female, officially changes her gender to female while sitting on death row. I'm not going to get political, but I am going to state something. The sex reassignment operations, full sex reassignment operation, they were done on the taxpayer's dime. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not going to say nothing else, but I think it's very informational. We like to do informational things. And I'm making it known, and I want it to be informational. But but
as a fellow taxpayer, not even in the same state, I'd be fucking fuming.
Okay. But I get it. I'm not even, my whole point is people need to understand that when this murder happened, Skylar was a male, but Skylar did transition to a female. And I'm not here to be rude about that.
I don't give a fuck that you transitioned.
No. To be fair, Skylar does not really deserve respect at all. But I'm not going to be that person that like misgenders and all that stuff. So I tried really hard. But I'd be
pissed to know that my tax money is what helped get your transition.
But I
while you're in
also
prison.
wanted to point out that
for murder,
while Skylar was in prison and while Skylar is on death row, basically as soon as the moratorium kicked in, because it was the same year as the moratorium, as soon as the moratorium kicked in, Skylar was approved for sex reassignment surgery, and the sex reassignment surgery was done on the taxpayer's dime. And I do think that's important information, and I don't want to get into the politics of it because this is not a political podcast, but I do think that it is important for people to understand and have knowledge of things. And if you are somebody who is okay with your taxpayer dollars going to sex reassignment surgery for inmates, that's fine. If you are somebody who is against it, that's also fine. But I do think that a lot of the times,
you have a right to your opinion on how you feel about it.
And I think a lot of the times those little pieces of information get left out. And I just think it's important that people have knowledge that that is something. And by the way, this is not the first case, and this is not the first time that a prison has paid for sex reassignment surgery on an inmate. I'm just going to make that very clear too. I don't want people to think
I'm sorry, but I feel like, first of all, I am going to get into it a little bit, not the political side of it, but for me, in my opinion, I mean, I'm kind of 50-50 because if you're needing an operation done, like on one hand, depending on what you're in there for, like if you're in there for murder, the fuck you should die from whatever the fuck's going on with you.
They still get to have medical rights if they're in prison.
Well, no, I know
whether they're the worst people in the world or not.
But the thing is, if you need a surgery done, okay, do the surgery because it's a life-saving procedure. That's not a life-saving procedure. So and that's where I feel with that is it's like that's an elective surgery.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I will say this much. My personal opinion on this scenario. I do not think that somebody like not even somebody like Sky, I would say anybody who is in prison, I do not think sex reassignment surgery should be something that is done on taxpayers' dollars because you just said exactly what I feel. When you're in prison, you get the basics.
First of all, you're in prison for a reason.
You get food, you get shelter, and you're on lockdown or whatever. And you do deserve to get medically treated for medically necessary reasons. Now, being somebody who is transgender, that's not a medically necessary reason. And people can fight with me all day about that. I am a psych major and it's just not medically.
A life-saving procedure.
It's not a life-saving.
You're not dying from something.
Well, people could go into that, but it's not even that.
Then that goes into the mental health side of it.
It's not even that. It is the fact that it's not even the reassignment surgery. That in itself.
It's the fact that it's the taxpayers' dollars.
No, it's not even that. That in itself is very expensive. But what people don't understand, for males to turn to females, which is what happened, there is a lifelong care that has to go with it. It's expensive.
Which again is part of the taxpayers' dollars.
No, it is, but I'm just saying, so it's not like we did this surgery and it's done. It's never done now. And if I'm being
you do the hormonal treatment alone.
If I'm being super, but see, now here's how I feel about that. If you get arrested and let's say you are transgender and you get arrested and you are on hormones.
That I feel different because you're actively on it.
I personally believe that you should be allowed to continue to seek those hormones in prison because taking yourself off of them is actually more dangerous.
But you shouldn't be allowed to have the surgery.
I didn't say that. I'm just
no,
saying.
I know. I'm saying
for somebody, my problem with Skylar is Skylar was not on hormones. Skylar did not talk about transitioning. This is 2019 when when the transition happened. And
people do some wild shit to try to get out of jail.
No, I don't think it was ever that. And I'm not saying that Skylar would fake being transgender, because that's just ridiculous. What I'm saying is,
I believe it from like Brian Koberger though, because he tried to do that.
No, Brian Koberger tried to get changed over to a woman's prison.
Yeah, and saying I identify as a woman.
Correct. But there's a difference between that and actually going through the whole surgery. If you're going through the whole surgery,
I know.
It's a real thing. I just don't understand how it is in our world that a prisoner who is in jail, by the way, for the rest of their life, if not going to be dying by the death penalty, if it gets reinstated.
Murder.
No, if it gets reinstated, they'll die in the death penalty, was allowed to have the luxury of a sex reassignment surgery. But there are plenty of transgendered people in this world that will never be able to have that surgery because they can't afford it.
And they're
because it's
super nice fucking people. They deserve that shit. Like,
well, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to get into the politics of it. I'm actually not, you can do the research. I'm going to give you one piece of information, then we're going to bounce out of here. I'm not going to name who actually approved the surgery, but if y'all just look it up, you'll find it. What?
The warden.
No.
Oh.
You will find it. It was a political person, and it might change your view on this person if you look it up, but I'm not putting it out there. So you'll need to go and do your own research on it. I highly encourage you to look it up and see and do a little bit of research on it and educate yourself, because I was shocked to find that out, like to find out that this happened this way. Other than that, this was the story of Skylar Deleon. If you like the shit that you hear, if you like the things that we do, please follow us. If you're not, share us with all the people, which by the way, y'all are sharing like a motherfucker, because we keep getting extra downloads and I'm loving it. And I know Sierra's loving it. And so just keep it up, because we appreciate you. And other than that, I want to say thank you very much for listening to me tell you the story of Skylar Deleon with the really tiny part on Power Rangers, but for some reason that afforded him a yacht. Until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.